Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bart Pickett, for those who I don't know. I'm the trial court administrator here for Metro. On behalf of the State Trial Courts Department, thank you all for being here. I want to welcome you all, and thank you to Judge Hedrick for letting us use her lovely courtroom for today's honorary ceremony. It's especially nice to see so many old familiar faces, like my predecessor, Tim Townsend, who's able to join us because it's just too cold to golf today. But seriously, we're very lucky to have this resource of the Office of Conservatorship Management here in Nashville. And we're even luckier we've had mayors and councils that have supported it and hopefully continue to support the endeavor. For the last 10 years, the office has grown into 3 full-time employees and provides an enviable example of how a city can protect some of its most vulnerable citizens. Under the leadership of Amy Bryant, who herself is a national expert on conservatorships, the OCM continues to do great work and should be around for many years to come. Again, I thank you all for being here, especially our judges, both our current and former, and as well as any other elected officials and distinguished guests. Thank you all.
We'll have remarks by Judge Kennedy now.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Amy. I guess for short people, you can step up here, right? Okay. No, you're kidding. Okay. Well, okay, that's cool. I like it. I've got to tell you, one of the great things about retirement is that once you get retired, you can make at least an effort to forget all the stuff you didn't like and only remember the good moments. But in light of the fact that this is the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the Office of Conservatorship Management, I had to drag up some of the old memories to be able to talk to you about the good memories. Because without the old memories, there would be no Office of Conservatorship Management. Back in 2013, in April, and I didn't remember all of this. It may sound like I did as I'm talking about it, but without Kitty digging up some old minutes, I would have probably missed some of this. But back in April of 2013, if you don't remember those years, we had become, probably for about 5 consecutive years, the busiest court involving conservatorships and adult guardianships in the entire state. Part of that was because we had more hospitals in the city of Nashville than just about anywhere else. We had more nursing home and retirement facilities than anybody else. And we're kind of a gateway city. We were already a hot city. We just didn't know it yet. We didn't know that we were going to be so attractive to the whole country, especially elderly and seniors who moved into our community. As a result of that, we probably had, I think, more conservatorships than one judge could handle. And in fact, this one judge at that time was literally handling almost 100% of the conservatorships and adult guardianships that came into Davidson County, as well as taking some from other judges in other counties who had recused themselves. It was a bigger load than Randy Kennedy could handle. But by the grace of God and some wonderful people around me, we were plugging along. But we had a few that went sour. We had a few folks that stole some money. I will never forget the Jewel Tennant case, where her own relatives sold her house out from under her without her knowledge, without her wisdom. I will never forget a Franklin case, a case where a young lady really needed a review hearing to see whether or not she could have her conservatorship set aside. There are a few others, obviously, along the way that were celebrated. The Glenn Campbell case, of course, the John Danny Tate case, which some of you may remember, where his entire entourage came to court wearing shirts that said, "Free Danny Tate." But most of all, we had a management issue. With this volume of work involving the most vulnerable citizens, as Bart pointed out, the most vulnerable citizens in the entire county that needed more attention than we were able to give them with a singular public guardian, even though the state law permitted us to appoint a public guardian. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been some great public guardians in this county. One in particular, Monica Edwards, was magnificent. But one day, Monica came to me and said, "Judge, I can't do this job anymore. I'm overwhelmed by it. It's time for me to retire from being public guardian and just devote my time to my practice." As a result of that, we went through a transition period and had a guardian, a public guardian, who had a number of cases that didn't work out too well. So as a result of that, I decided, after some feedback from other judges and other lawyers around the community and other social workers and civic people, that we needed to establish a task force. And we needed to see what we could do to make the conservatorship program in Davidson County better. You know, even though I'd been a judge, by that time I'd been the judge in this court for almost 10 years. So obviously I was a little slow on getting this done. But in any event, we had a volunteer task force. And I want to recognize who those people were, because I think some of them are no longer with us. Some of them may be in the courtroom today. But they made up the nucleus of a study group that looked at all of the benefits and all of the disadvantages associated with conservatorships. They helped us to decide how the future should go with this overwhelmingly complicated program. And why do I say it's complicated? Whenever you're charged as a judicial system with caring for the least of your brothers and sisters, and you're not just arguing about money, and you're not just arguing about who breached a contract, or who may have had a fender bender and got hurt, or some other novel area of the law. Whenever you're dealing with that, we tend to look at the shiny objects, and we tend to forget about the folks that are just basically in need, whether it be because of a brain trauma, or because of a mental illness, or because of just the aging system itself, or other reasons. In any event, on April 29, 2013, the initial meeting of the Volunteer Task Force on Conservatorships and Guardianships took place in this building. And in attendance was Rebecca Blair, Monica Edwards, now Judge Andra Hedrick, Adrian Newman, yours truly, Pat Saltkill. I'm not sure you knew anything about conservatorships, but hey, somebody had to be there to keep order, Pat. Right, and there was a lunch. I forgot. There was a lunch, and that may have been why Pat came. But anyway, Pat was there. Jean Caudill, Cynthia Gardner, Councilman Walter Hunt, Chris Norris, Teresa Covington, Dr. Laura Collins, Kim Hale, Colleen McLean, Martha Jim Whitlock, and Kitty Landers. Now, we weren't sure where we were going with this program. We thought, well, maybe we should appoint more than one public guardian. Maybe we should have a whole panel of public guardians. Where are we going to get the money? Well, of course, there's no money. I mean, you know, when you start these programs, you're lucky to have, you have a thought and you have a plan, or a concept of a plan. And money is something that's kind of it's just out there somewhere. Hopefully we'll get some. After that initial meeting, where I expressed my concerns, and all that group of people I told you about allowed me to vent about my frustrations over what to do about getting people to file accountings, for example, and getting people to do their due diligence to at least file an annual statement letting us know where the conservatee is and how he or she is doing. Once we got through all of that, a light bulb came on, at least among that group. I'm not sure if my light bulb did, but theirs did. And one of the things that they brought to my attention was that we needed to be able to create a significant panel of members of the bar who could be conservators themselves, or who could be guardians ad litems or attorney ad litems, that we shouldn't just appoint the same old people every time, the same 5 or 10 or 20 lawyers that we were familiar with. We needed to go out and recruit among the young lawyers, lawyers that would learn what conservatorship law was really all about, what conservators really did, rather than it being, oh, it's some kind of special fiduciary job. We needed to really get into the nitty-gritty of what was going on in that regard. And maybe we just didn't need to have one public guardian. Maybe what we really needed to do was to have a total panel of those folks to do it. And that's a pretty optimistic and maybe a Pollyannish thought, because what you're saying is you want lawyers that are willing to occasionally take a case where they're going to make no money at all. Now, we've got a pro bono program, but we were talking about a significant commitment. We weren't talking about coming in and doing one case and spending 5 hours of your billable time. We were talking about you lawyers making a commitment to serve for Mary Smith, who's got Alzheimer's, until she dies. Or maybe the young fellow that's 19 or 20 years old who has spina bifida and Down syndrome, until he dies. We're talking about a lifetime commitment. And a lot of lawyers really aren't going to do that, as we found out, but thank God a whole bunch did, and still do to this day. As a result, today, we have, as a result of that task force and all the other folks that we're going to talk about today, we have, I think, the most successful conservatorship management program probably in the southeastern United States, if not the entire country. Now, just to give you a little history, remember I mentioned something about money. Well, the only way you get money when you are a court is through the legislative body and the executive body. You know, that 3 branches of government thing that some folks don't care about. At that time, in 2013, 2014, we had zero money with which to staff this wonderful concept of a plan, or this plan, available to us. And sitting in the courtroom today, although he'd rather be home with his grandson or out playing golf if it were warm enough, is Tim Townsend, who is a retired trial court administrator. And Bart, I know those are big shoes to fill, but hey, he's the only one that says they're big shoes. You got it. Back in the day, in all seriousness, I recall sitting down with Tim after the task force had reached its conclusions about what we needed to do and saying, you know, I think we need to have an Office of Conservatorship Management. And this wasn't my concept. It was me telling Tim what the task force had told me. We need to have an Office of Conservatorship Management staffed by a competent, caring, passionate member of the bar who can step into the courtroom on a moment's notice, who can deal with an emergency conservatorship or a routine conservatorship, if there is such a thing as routine conservatorships, who can deal with an adult guardianship or a transition from a minor who's in a guardianship to a conservatorship. We need somebody like that. But we don't need to put it under Judge Kennedy, because Judge Kennedy did not want it to be under the judge. Judge Kennedy knew that would be a conflict for me and my successor, Judge Hedrick. Didn't know she was going to be my successor at that time, but we knew it really wasn't a judicial function. It was an eyes and ears on behalf of the public and on behalf of the courts to help us to enhance the quality of life of those vulnerable citizens that we're talking about. So, as a result of that, a young lady by the name of Rochelle Gallimore Scruggs, and I don't know if Rochelle is here today or whether she's come to our meeting today. If she makes it in, she will let her ears burn while she's on the way. But Rochelle Gallimore Scruggs ultimately was hired by Tim, not by Judge Kennedy. Isn't that the way it went, Tim? I think I was allowed some input maybe, but in any event, but we had a committee, thank goodness. And the committee interviewed a number of candidates for that job, and Rochelle jumped into that program. And I want to say, right off the bat, one of the things that she did that this old judge hadn't even thought about was she began to set up the initial video program, the first video program, and the first program of sending out information to people who were prospective conservators and those that were already conservators about the duties and responsibilities of people like that. I didn't think of that, but Rochelle did. And she set the foundation for this program. And she recruited lawyers. She tried to hustle up as many as she could get that we could get for us. And about that time, I also was able to talk Judge McClendon into start taking a few cases. Just take one or two for me, Judge. Then it became 5, and then it became 10, and then it became 20. How many you got on your table now, you think? Would you say you got 50 or 60 or 100 of them? I would say, yeah. Somewhere in that neighborhood?
You wouldn't believe it. She does about 35 ELFs and emergency conservatorship.
Yeah, I didn't really get into the ELFs yet. A month? Yeah, I told her, I think maybe I missed my calling. I would have been a better used car salesman, but Amanda asked me when I went down to see her, I'll never forget sitting down with the first time and saying, Judge McClendon, I really need some help on this. I really need to be able to transfer some cases to you. And she said, well, you know, I've got a history in the conservatorship area, and I've done some conservatorships. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, at one time, what is now 54, which was at that time Senior Citizens Inc., and many of you may not know this, that Amanda was actually general counsel to the Senior Citizens Inc.'s program that they had dealing with the elderly. So she felt pretty good about taking on a case or two. And so, well, which kind of cases do you want me to take? Well, the ones I really wanted to get her to help me with were the emergency conservatorships. And as Judge Hedrick just mentioned, apparently we're up to 30 or 40 a month. Every month. These are cases that come in on an emergency basis where somebody suddenly has had a traumatic brain injury or has suddenly gone into a coma from a drug overdose or suddenly has had a surgical procedure gone wrong or maybe has just got such a terrible illness, either mentally, emotionally, or physically, or all of the above, that they've got to have somebody appointed and they need them right now. Not yesterday, but right now. Fortunately, she ended up taking all of them from me. And I was relieved of having to do emergency conservatorships. She knows that I thank her. I hope you all appreciate what she did in that regard because it allowed me to spend more time on probate cases and decedents estates, and she did great with it. As time went on, ultimately, Rochelle left our office, or left the Office of Conservatorship Management, and moved on to other things in her practice. And the young lady that just stepped out, who we'll be talking about more, was interviewed to come in and become a part of this program. And Amy Willoughby Bryant, I always forget the Willoughby part, but Amy Willoughby Bryant grabbed a hold of this program and, like lighting a fuse to a stick of dynamite, she blew it up big time. Now, what do I mean by big time? I recall in the last 2 or 3 years of my service as a judge, I was asked to come to Chattanooga by the local chancellor there to speak to the entire judiciary, all of the judges who had concurrent jurisdiction over conservatorships throughout the state. And Amy went to Chattanooga. And Amy began to show those judges and those courts around the state what this Office of Conservatorship Management was and what it could do and how it had made our service to the most vulnerable citizens better than it had ever been. She also improved upon the video program, improved upon the educational material, and managed to really make experts out of a lot of lawyers that really spent maybe less than 5 or 10% of their time in this arena. Many of them were corporate lawyers, some of them were criminal defense lawyers, but lawyers from all over the city got involved in the program and are still involved today. And I don't know how many of them we got. You'll let them know. So, but it's a bunch. It's a bunch. We also went through some other changes, and many of them I talked about actually during my retirement. I won't bore you all with the details there. But people like Beth Johnson, who's handling the accountings of virtually everybody in the county that needs an accounting, including the conservatorships that come through here, has made the oversight of the finances of the individuals for whom we are providing this service much better. I got to say, I'm going to knock on the podium wood here, that since Beth came on board and handled these accountings, that I'm not aware of a single new case transitioning from me to you, Judge Hedrick, where we've caught a conservator who was stealing money, because the oversight is always there. The accountings are always required, and they're required because the task force and the probate master and the new judge are upholding, and I call you the new judge because it's only been 2 years, right? Are still maintaining a requirement that these things be done. That's also been some other changes, and I won't spend a lot of time on all of them, but I want to mention a couple. My understanding is that in addition to us talking Judge McClendon into taking a few conservatorships, that we've also gotten other judges in the courthouse who have come on board too. And I don't know if that's because Judge Hedrick is just nicer to them than I was, because I couldn't talk any of the rest of them into, except occasionally Judge Binkley would take one. I could fool him into one. But my understanding is Judge Briley takes some of these cases from time to time. And I don't know if Judge Briley is with us today, but
He is in a bench trial, and Judge Ingram is in a jury trial.
and she's in a jury trial. So both of them are out. Right, and both Judge Ingram and Judge Briley came on the bench about the same time Judge Hedrick did. I guess the same term of court, but literally from September 22 till now, both of them have begun to take some of this load as well. And I don't know if it's emergency conservatorships, but certainly regular conservatorships, which once again allows the probate judge, who is also the busiest probate judge in Tennessee, just as I was, as I understand it, to actually pay attention to probate and to other litigation that might come before you. Now, there are a number of you in the audience today that I've had a chance to speak to, and some that I have not. I don't want to spend your time with me talking about each and every one of them, because I'm going to miss somebody if I do, and I'll have a chance to talk to them as when the meeting here today is over. But I want to say to you that of all the things that I had an opportunity to be a part of in the 19 years or almost 19 years that I was on the bench, I really believe this is the single one item, this one overlaying item about which I am the most proud. Because I have no doubt that even though there are still cases out there where maybe we've got the wrong conservator, or maybe we've got the wrong family member caring for somebody, or the wrong caregiver, that by and large, Nashville has now a conservatorship program that is the single best program that I'm aware of, not just in the South. Now, Amy, I don't know where you go with this next. Are you next? So there you go. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away and just simply say to all of you how much I thank you for being here. And believe me, I don't put on a tie for everybody. But for you guys, I'm delighted to be able to do it.
Thank you very much.
You bet. You bet.
right, so the step stool was for me because I'm short. Councilmember Porterfield got stuck in traffic, so when she comes, even if we're concluded, she'll present the resolution, but I won't hold you guys much longer. I thank every one of you for being here. Thank you, Bart, for opening up the program, and thank you, Judge Kennedy, for all of your remarks about this office. In March of 2013, Judge Kennedy, as he stated, put together a task force. And he said that he wanted the members of the task force to bring an important perspective to conservatorship and guardianship cases and impact that these matters have on individuals from whom cases are filed, but also for the families that are involved in our community in general. Specifically, you stated, we are incredibly fortunate in Nashville to live in the Athens of the South with its great gifts and abundant benefits. However, with these gifts and benefits comes great responsibility, not the least of which is the obligation to properly care for disabled and infirmed adults, an obligation that is particularly challenging in Davidson County. A challenge it has been for sure, and it has been my absolute honor and pleasure to be able to lead this organization for the past 6 years. Aside from financial reviews and audits, welfare reviews, litigation, educating the public, the OCM is the go-to resource in our community outside organizations and our court system and across the state of Tennessee for conservatorships. If a conservator has a question, they call the OCM. If the respondent has an issue, they call the OCM. If APS has a concern and needs to verify information, they call the OCM. When MNPD has a concern, they also call the OCM. And when the disability community has questions or needs guidance, they call the OCM. If the courts, both civil and criminal, have a question involving conservatorships, they call the OCM. And when CNN wanted to know what was happening with conservatorships in Tennessee because of the Michael Orr case, who did they call? They called the OCM. They sure did. If you haven't seen Blindsided on HBO, you should watch it. I'm in there. All right, so I'm proud to say that we are the reputable office for best practices, education, advice, outreach, resources, and guidance in Tennessee and nationally. As Judge Kennedy said, we're the only office in the southeastern Tennessee, but our office is very unique, and there is no other office across the country like this office. There are other offices, but they're not like this office. And so we provide our expertise to the entire state. And we have a tried and true blueprint for other offices within other counties. And Judge Kennedy, you said you relate to it because you took 10 years to create this office, but you're the only county in Tennessee to create this office. So you're not late, you're ahead of the game. I'm looking forward to many more years of the OCM serving the citizens of Davidson County and setting an example of what other counties in the state of Tennessee can do for our elderly and vulnerable adult population. Just to shine some light on the statistics for the past 10 years, I'll provide you a little bit of context. As Bart said, our office consists of 3 full-time employees. We have an investigator auditor. Her name is Lindsay, and she's sitting right there. We also have a social worker. Her name is Sherry. She's also sitting over there. And then we have myself, and I do all of the other things that they aren't helping me to do. Additionally, we have a partnership with Metro Social Services to assist with the completion of welfare reviews, and he asked me not to call him out, but Metro Social Services is also here. And then from time to time, we're fortunate to have interns from Belmont Law that provide us with great assistance, and a few of them are also here, and I'm so happy that you guys are here. So in FY 2012, there were 1,782 conservatorships. In FY 24, there were 2,746 conservatorships and approximately 340 guardianships that our office helps to oversee. In FY 2012, the independent conservator panel that Judge Kennedy spoke about consisted of about 9 lawyers and a few organizations, oversaw 120 individuals as conservators. Today, in FY 2024, the Independent Conservator Panel services 363 individuals. It consists of over 50 lawyers, 13 non-lawyers, and several organizations. So the Independent Conservator Panel has grown significantly, Judge Kennedy. In FY 2018, when I arrived, we were completing about 12 audits per year, and at that point, we were only doing audits. But now we review all financial conservatorship cases and all guardianship cases every single year. Thanks to our partnership with Metro Social Services, back in 2019, January of 2019, when I started, we had 429 welfare reviews that have been done. For context, guys, we have over 2,000 conservatorships, so we had done 429 at that point. We've completed over 1,020 welfare reviews, and in just the 1 year that Sherry has been here with us, we've doubled the number of welfare reviews we've been able to complete in 1 year. And so thank you to the state trial courts, thank you to the judges, and thank you to Metro Council for allowing us to have another staff person over this past year. We're on track to complete 240 welfare reviews per year, and with just one more staff person, we could complete 360 welfare reviews per year. So the OCM launched the first and only statewide training that Judge Kennedy spoke about. I'm still waiting on the courts to require that training, but it's okay. And we have quizzes and videos. They have been viewed over 11,258 times, and over 2,122 people have completed the OCM school since 2019. In addition to our online education, the OCM provides in-person and virtual trainings. On average, I give about 30 presentations per year to various organizations and legal groups. In FY 2024, approximately $123.5 million in assets was being managed by conservators in Davidson County. We have uncovered over $500,000 in funds misappropriated by fiduciaries. We've located undisclosed property, identified real property that's been sold without the court approval. We've identified cases in which conservators use resources for themselves as opposed to the respondent. And 28 conservatorships have been expanded or changed. 108 conservators have been removed or replaced due to actions by the OCM, and 71 conservatorships were terminated due to actions by the OCM. And so we're working hard to carry out the vision that Judge Kennedy and the task force put together for this office, and I have several goals for the growth of the OCM. Well, actually, I have 5. First, I want to be able to provide welfare reviews for every respondent at least once every 2 years. By placing eyes on these individuals, we are best able to address the needs and ensure proper care for the people we are overseeing. Second, to have a dedicated staff person to update and maintain our database to ensure the integrity of our data. We hope to have an updated database soon, as we're using the same database, our original database that we started with. This person would also answer numerous constituent calls and provide continued guidance for conservators. Number 3, to increase education to public organizations, courts, and financial institutions. This not only helps us to prevent negligence, which we have found has been the root cause of most of the problems and misappropriation that we have with conservators, but it also helps conservators to navigate the difficult task of carrying out their fiduciary duties. Most of them simply don't know what they're supposed to do. 4, to expand our partnerships with community and state organizations and stakeholders. The reality is Davidson County conservatorships cover people who reside outside of Davidson County. About 30% of the people under conservatorship reside outside of our Davidson County limits. And therefore, the breadth of the connections extends to many of our community and legal organizations outside of this county. In addition to that, there are individuals residing in Davidson County that have conservatorships that were originated outside of Davidson County. And so we are all connected within this state and within our county, and I plan to continue those partnership efforts. Lastly, to continue to assist our state with resources that benefit all persons covered by conservatorships, with the hopes that one day we will have a statewide office of conservatorship management, with Davidson County being the leading model. I do have one goal that's not related to the OCM, but it speaks to something that Judge Kennedy mentioned, and that's our public guardian. We no longer have a public guardian, but I think Davidson County needs another public guardian again. It's been 10 years, and I think it's time. That will alleviate the burden on the independent conservator panel and on the lawyers that are taking these cases without pay. And so I want to thank state trial courts. I want to thank the Metro Council, and I want to thank Mayor O'Connell for continued support and recognition of our office. A special thanks to our first director, Rochelle Gallimore-Scruggs. She let me know she wouldn't be able to be here, but maybe on Zoom, and I don't know if she's up there or not. But her efforts and foundation were exactly what this office needed in order for us to build upon it. I want to thank you, specifically Judge Kennedy, for your vision and your unwavering support. I want to thank the Metro Council members from 2014 for putting this office in place, including a former council member, Larry Hager. He could not make it today. He said he was going to send his son Jackson. I'm not sure if Jackson's in the room, but if he is, thank you for being here on behalf of your father. And thank you to Judge Hedrick, Judge McClendon, Judge Briley, and Judge Ingram for your unwavering support. We work so well together. I appreciate everything that we're able to do together. I appreciate all the support that you give to our office and listening to all of the things and all the suggestions that I say and tell you guys that need to happen. But I truly appreciate the partnership that we have together. I want to thank Lonnie and Demetria and the entire Metro Social Services staff. We literally could not do this without you. I also want to thank the probate court clerk's office. We absolutely could do nothing without them. All of our data comes from the clerk's office, so without the clerk's office, we wouldn't be able to manage conservatorships. And to Lindsay and Sherry, who never like to be pointed out, I don't know what I would do without you. Your support and effort and work ethic are not missed by me. We make an awesome team, and the OCM is better because of you, and I really do thank you guys. And to my biggest supporter, who also got stuck in traffic, and my toughest critic, the person who reminds me to be better today than yesterday, my husband, Julian Bryant. He'll probably be out there at some point. Thank you. I want to thank him, too, for his love and support. Without him, I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I'm able to do, and he is my biggest supporter. So I want to thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all being here, and hope you guys enjoy the cake and the sodas and the reception. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.